Hello and welcome to another episode of Flix Joystix. I'm Guy and I just saw Incredibles 2. I can't believe it's been 2004 since the last Incredibles came out, 14 years ago. I was still living in Los Angeles at that time, so it feels definitely like a lifetime ago. Incredibles 2 stars Craig T. Nelson as Mr. Incredible, Holly Hunter as Elastigirl, and Samuel L. Jackson as Frozone. You know, I was actually looking to make a joke out of this by adding Holly Hunter's middle initial, but I can't seem to find her middle initial anywhere, so I have no idea what her middle name is. If anyone knows, please put it in the comments below, because now I'm genuinely interested. Pixar has a pretty good track record when it comes to their sequels, most notably in Finding Nemo and Toy Story. Although there was Cars, but you can't win them all, I guess. I've been looking forward to the sequel to The Incredibles for a long time now. Although things have changed in modern cinema, superhero films are not quite the novelty that they used to be back then. It seems like every month we get a superhero movie now, and there is a little bit of fatigue that has set in. One of the biggest problems now is how do you make it stand out from all these other films? I think Incredibles 2 succeeds in the fact that it's not dependent on this giant cinematic universe. It only has one other film to work with, and Pixar, while they have nods to all their other films in each other's films, they don't necessarily depend on each other to make a coherent story. This film picks up immediately after the first film, not a couple weeks later, not a couple days later, like within minutes, you're already back into the action, and they don't allow for a lot of back exposition. They assume you know the story of the previous film, so I'm probably going to have to go back and watch the first film just to catch those last few minutes. They do make a few jokes and side comments in relation to the first movie, so I need to brush up. I love the overall look of the Incredibles universe. It's set in a 1960s style mid-century modern look. Everything looks futuristic and retro at the same time. They're still using landlines. Their TVs are not HD. Everything looks dated, but in a cool way. I am going to talk about the plot summary, so there will be a few spoilers here and there, so use discretion as you go through. I'll try to keep it vague-ish, but I can't guarantee anything, so you have been warned. At the end of the first film, the Parr family did earn a little goodwill after defeating Syndrome and his robot army. However, after botching an escape with the Underminer, they're kind of right back in the same position again. Superheroes are still hated. However, the Supers have a new supportive fan by the name of Winston Dever, played by Bob Odenkirk, who you might recognize from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Winston and his sister Evelyn claim that they want to help legalize supers again so they can fight crime without being persecuted. So he recruits Mr. Incredible, Elastigirl, and Frozone to the cause. Although Mr. Incredible is excited to get back to fighting the good fight again, they decide to make Elastigirl the flagship ambassador, much to Bob's dismay. And the reason for that actually made sense. Mr. Incredible is a very strong brawler, and he doesn't really worry so much about collateral damage, which helps damage heroes' reputations, so it makes sense when Elastigirl is much more refined. So the roles switch in this film. Helen goes out to fight as Elastigirl, and Bob has to stay at home with the kids. While it initially seems that Mr. Incredible is sidelined, Bob and Helen are a team, and they can't succeed unless the other one does as well. And there's some pretty funny jokes about that. Helen knows that Bob wants to get back out there and start punching things, but if she doesn't make it, no one can, and he knows that. That's one of my favorite things about this film, is how strong the dialogue is and how well the character interactions are with each other. You genuinely believe these are a married couple. You genuinely believe that this is a strong and loving family unit that depends on and supports each other. Bob staying at home with the kids are some of the funnier moments in the film. It feels like that old 1980s movie, Mr. Mom, where Bob is having to take care of the kids, solve math problems, solve relationships, solve Jack's 17 various forms of turning into everything from monsters, fire babies, teleporting to other dimensions. Jack's got a lot going on. One of the highlights of Jack's little story is that whole raccoon scene. I'll just leave it to that. They've shown a couple promo things between Jack and the raccoon, and that elicited some of the best laughs from the theater when I was there. I think Bob's story had a lot of heart to it. This was a situation where he couldn't punch his way out of his problems. He had to be a hero in a new way, and that was to be a loving and supportive dad, and he continually wondered if he was being a good father to all his kids' adolescent issues. Elastigirl's story was definitely action-packed. While they showed a lot of her powers in the first film, they really showed what a good detective she was as well. Elastigirl's powers are a combination of Mr. Fantastic and Spider-Man's powers. She's going up against a new enemy called Screenslaver, who's controlling the media and people through cameras. She has some great scenes, especially her motorcycle chase trying to save a runaway monorail, that one fight scene where she goes up against Screenslaver in his apartment. I was genuinely impressed by a lot of that. The lighting, the fight choreography, everything was just well done. And even in her off times when she's talking to Winston and Evelyn, she seems like a real fleshed out, genuine person with relatable problems and questions and concerns. While this is a superhero film, I was again just genuinely impressed how well the dialogue flowed in this. Everyone just seemed real and relatable, and I really enjoyed that aspect. It just made this world feel like it was real. And that was very, very cool to me. And of course, there's a deeper mystery, more fight scenes, moments of coming to the rescue, getting the whole group together to fight as one. It's awesome. It was an action-packed film that I really, really enjoyed. The tone of this film seemed a little more mature than the first one. Characters were drinking in this. There was some light profanity, which I was genuinely surprised to see in a Pixar film. It's nothing too heavy. I would call it more PG light. They do at one point say damn and hell, so it's not world-ending, but there you go. And there were some interesting parallels to the first film. Syndrome idolized heroes until he grew bitter and learned to hate them. Winston also idolizes heroes, but he keeps that sense of idealism. There are some new supers that are introduced in the Incredibles universe, one of which was Void, and she has some really cool portal powers that they did some awesome fight scenes with. And that was one of the other things I was really impressed with. The way they used powers didn't seem superfluous. They really made sense in terms of fighting in scenes, and I just really enjoyed that a lot. And the big climatic action battle at the end, there were a few points that just made me sit back and just go, damn. Because it was really cool. They had some great scenes in that. Are they going to consider a third Incredibles? Well, there is the point that Underminer is still out there, but you know, it's just, I'm of a mixed mindset of that, because there comes a point where sequels can only carry so far. There aren't too many series that can maintain multiple sequels without falling apart at some point. Toy Story, its first 3 films to date, have been awesome. They're doing a 4th one. I hope this isn't the one that breaks it, but you know, it's just one of those, it's like, it's still good at this point, and I'd hate to see something as special as The Incredibles be tarnished by a bad story. Then again, there's so much potential with the Incredibles universe that Disney simply has not tapped into. They spend so much of their time focusing on Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy, they forget they have a couple of their own heroes sometimes. They have The Incredibles, they have Big Hero 6, which is technically Marvel in origin, and of course they have Darkwing Duck. So they do have some heroes that they could expand their universes with. Not all cinematic universe, not everything has to be that. I would like to see the adventures of the Incredibles continue in some format, because they have all these great heroes that were during the golden age of heroes. They have all these villains that they've mentioned in passing. I almost feel like they could do a Watchmen-style prequel sort of thing where they talk about the good old days before everything went bad. That could be an interesting film. But then again, I really like the Incredibles team with the children in tow, because the kids really hold their own in this as well. They don't feel like they're just side additions. I saw one review where they compared Jack Jack to a minion, and I don't really see that. Jack Jack, he's got 17 different powers. Who knows what he would be like if he got a little bit older. He's also got that cute baby manipulative nature of his, and he's funny, and it didn't feel like it was overused. And I didn't feel like it was just there for comedy, although there were some really, really funny moments, especially when Frozone came over and saw Jack Jack in action. And I really like how the kids refer to him as Uncle Lucius. Again, it just makes this world feel lived in and familiar and comfortable, and I really appreciated that it's more than just spandex heroes punching things. It feels like there's a family life outside as well. And that's my thought on Incredibles 2. After 14 years, it was well worth the wait. I would love to see more in some capacity, even if they don't make a third movie. I had a great time. It was well worth it, and I would love to do it again. What did you enjoy about the movie? Make sure you share down with me below. In the meantime, thanks for stopping by, and I will see you that next time. Take care.